For the moment, go with. Thank you very much for joining in. Let's open it up for our guest also joining us this afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Swapnil Kothari, who's joining us, Namit Saxena, Ratan Sharada, and also Danish Qureshi. Ratan Sharada ji, on the political aspect of it, because I believe you've been also listening to the reactions that have been coming in. Karnataka government says it is not a setback. They will approach the Supreme Court once again. But as far as how divided, not just a split verdict, but also our political lines has been, sir, what's your take on it?
I think it's very worrying when the people start branding judges. You know, this particular judgment, so far it had never happened, that we start branding judges as extremists, chauvinistic, whatever, XYZ. So that is very dangerous trend by the politicians. Coming to the main issue, there was one sentence where somebody saying that the judgment says that the girls must go to school because otherwise problems are created. Who is creating the problem? The girls who used to come to schools before this hijab controversy was stoked, were they not going to school? Who was stopping them? So we must find out, when you say that the girls are getting problem, they are not allowed to go to school, who is stopping them? Thirdly, when I think this freedom of choice language, actually when the people are talking of say constitutional rights, etc., this is a small opening for creeping Sharia. That is what it is, because the same court said the girls of puberty age can get married. They are not under, they don't come
Ratan
under.
Sharada, as far as the political reactions are concerned, we have Raashid Alvi joining us in the broadcast. Raashid Alvi, it is a split verdict where the Congress party already seems to be backing hijab, whereas there is no stay on ban.
Yeah, larger bench is going to be constituted by Chief Justice of India. They will look into it and will decide according to the law, but it is absolutely unnecessary controversy. Whether it is important, whether one girl, one woman should wear hijab or not in the country, whether it is the only issue in the country which should be discussed, which should be decided by the Supreme Court, I am unable to understand. You know, these BJP leaders and these communal leaders, they should go to the villages. Our old women, 60 years old, 70 years old.
But there is no ban in the entire state. It's just the classrooms, sir. You're talking as if there's a ban in the country. There's no ban in the country.
Whether you can ask any Sikh boy to remove Pagdi. You can ask any Sikh boy to remove Dadi.
Now that's an issue that the larger bench will discuss.
No, it is not. You are asking me this question, not Supreme Court.
Of course, sir, it was taken in the matter as far as the 10-day-long hearing that has been taken. Hijab, what's exactly intrinsic to the religion and what's not?
Hijab, religious leaders should decide it, whether hijab is a part of Sharia or not. If it is a part of religion, then you can't raise this question.
But sir, that is the difference as far as attending a school is concerned, because there everyone is equal.
Everyone is equal.
Even when it comes to the uniforms.
Whether hijab is creating any obstacles in the way of any other student? No, not at all. You are raising, why are you raising this question in last 4 or 5 years? Not before that?
Well, sir, the hijab controversy didn't exist this time last year. It wasn't there. Nobody was talking about it.
Even in last year, since wherever BJP government, such issues are being raised.
No, you know, okay.
Hijab,
but then, Mr. Alvi, the questions that you've raised, one will have to wait to see what the larger bench or the constitutional bench, whenever constituted, has to say. But as far as today's verdict is concerned, even Justice Dhulia said the High Court took a wrong path. It is ultimately a matter of choice, and Article 14 and 19. So he's talking about right of choice.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we should wait for the decision of the Supreme Court, but it is my considered opinion. If it is the part of religion, then nobody has any.
No, but if it is intrinsic, sir, how can there be choice involved? If there is choice, then it does not constitute as an intrinsic part, isn't it?
No, let us wait for the decision of the Supreme Court.
All right, sir, because we are looking at contradictory point of view that has been coming from the Congress party itself. Because there has been a Congress MLA who has been saying that there cannot be a complete ban on hijab, but there is nobody asking for a ban on hijab altogether. Thank you very much, Mr. Raashid Alvi, for joining us here in the broadcast. Swapnil, what's your take on it? Because we are looking at multiple issues that have been taken up, but all in all, even if we just listen and observe what Justice Dhulia has to say, he's only talking about education. He's talking about education should be given the priority for a girl child because they already go through a lot just to get the bare minimum education.
Amita, it's Justice Dhulia's interpretation of the entire issue is erroneous, and with due respect to him. And I'm glad that it has gone to the Constitution bench, and the Chief Justice will constitute either 3 judges or 5 judges there. And Justice Gupta's interpretation is correct, because what the Karnataka High Court full bench decision means that it looks at it very comprehensively, because any assertion towards wearing any kind of thing or not wearing any kind of thing comes under the umbrella of it is asserted as a right to freedom of religion. It has not been asserted as a right to choice. When the advocates for the hijab went on to argue 25 and the court was not seen to be buying it before Karnataka High Court, they started jumping on 19. When they could not buy, when the court started talking about 19, saying that look, 19 has its contours and it is subject to reasonable restrictions, they started jumping on to 25. This is what we lawyers do. It's normal practice. But at the end of the day, it is the court of, which is hearing the case, which has got to decide this issue. Now, what is paramount here is not the right to education or right to choice. What is paramount here is whether or not this falls within the right to privacy and whether or not it is an essential right to practice of a particular religion. Tomorrow, I would still wear a saffron band on my head, and I will go and argue in a court of law. Am I allowed to do that? Would I be allowed to do that?
Intrinsic part of the religion or not?
Because
1, 2. I think the second important question that the larger bench will focus is on the rights of these institutions when it comes to implementing a dress code, a uniform dress code among students. We also have Ifra Jan, spokesperson of the National Conference, joining us on the broadcast. Ifra Jan, your views? It was a split verdict today, and now the matter is going to be referred to a larger bench.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you. So number one, I very keenly listened to what Justice Dhulia had to say, and I read his verdict. It's something we absolutely agree with. As a Muslim woman, I am concerned for thousands of Muslim women in our country who happen to be the least educated group in India, and to create more and more hurdles for them and to say that you cannot come to school if you're not doing this, you cannot come to school if you're not doing this. That to me was very heartbreaking, because we need to open avenues for Muslim women to go to schools, to go to colleges, because it's the least literate group in the entire country. And that is why I agree with Justice Dhulia that the law doesn't just operate in a vacuum. The law operates in a social context. And to take on that social context and to say, no, we have to look at the social context and we have to allow women the choice to wear what they want to, that's essential. Coming to the question of uniform, of course, I've gone to school and worn uniform. Everybody has. The question is a headscarf, is a piece of cloth? I mean, can I now not wear a piece of cloth with the uniform? Is it completely
But that doesn't then pertain to be a uniform. That's the whole point of a uniform, isn't it, Namit Saxena? Because Ifra is pointing out what Justice Dhulia has to say. Let's also not forget Justice Gupta in the same, because he's been saying that one community cannot be favored over the other.
See, what Justice Dhulia misses is that no right to choice, particularly if you're looking at Part 3 of the Constitution, can be absolute. There are reasonable restrictions on it. Now, the question before the court is whether, the restriction imposed by the Karnataka government in prescribing a uniform and excluding hijab as part of the uniform is a reasonable restriction or not. So, saying simpliciter, this is a right of choice, and, just because, and see, this has got nothing to do with education. He is wrong in saying so. See, nobody is, how do you, this is like comparing oranges and apples is one. I don't think Justice Dhulia is correct, legally correct in whatever he has, decided today. But I must tell you, what is the future course after this judgment? See, because there's a split verdict. Now, the Chief Justice will have to constitute a 3-judge bench first. That 3-judge bench will decide the terms of references, and then they'll look into whether this has to be referred to a larger bench of 5 judges of the Constitution bench or not. And accordingly, if the 3-judge bench says it can be referred, then only it will go to Constitution bench, that is of 5 judges. So right now, we'll have to see when, the Chief Justice, because the Chief Justice is also going to, change on the 8th of November, into November. So let's see when the 3 judges bench is constituted and who are the judges in it. And then, accordingly you'll see. But right now, as I see, because the judgment, the complete judgment is yet to be uploaded, how I feel is, whatever the oral observations are of, Justice Dhulia, I don't think that, that they are legally correct. It is
Okay,
not.
Danish Qureshi, is it also more about perception and how everybody is interpreting things? Because if you call it intrinsic, there can be no choice involved. And if it is about women having this right to choose what they want to wear, it cannot be mandatory. There are women who are protesting against hijab, and they are saying that this is being used as a tool to suppress women.
Is it
Yes.
me?
So,
Mr. Qureshi, yes.
Repeat the question, I didn't get you.
What I'm wanting to understand from you is this about interpretation and perception? Because here in India, we see some students fighting for hijab, and then there's this mass movement, this global campaign against hijab, where women are saying that this is being used as a tool to suppress. Also, if it is intrinsic, it cannot be about choice, and if it is about choice, then you cannot say it is mandatory.
Okay. First of all, education institutes are not excluded from the constitution of the country. And you talk about the uniformity. So what the problem is created by the Karnataka government is that they recently declared the guideline for the uniformity. If anybody wants to wear a hijab, a piece of cloth in the same color, if anybody wants to use, if not, then he or she cannot. But what is the problem? They created a cast in the entire Karnataka and converted into the legal battle till the Supreme Court. What is the problem? Islam religious rituals have been excluded from the Constitution of the India. One day you will say that Islam is not a...
No, sir. Don't drag in religion over here right now, because you need to actually draw a line in the difference that is being made. Because this time last year, the students attending the college and did not have a problem, and thereafter the problem suddenly began because they started demanding to wear a hijab, and that is when there were certain antisocial elements who continued to blow it out of proportion. That is when the problem began as far as the fight to the Karnataka High Court and to the Supreme Court today is concerned. So there is a very thin line, but very important to understand the main difference is it priority to education. Of course, it should be given to one and all. There is no question about that.